everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast for Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a food blogger, recipe developer, and author. Her Instagram, Brock Your Body, features delicious recipes such as a healthier take on a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme and has more than 620,000 followers. On May 1st, she'll be at South Coast Plaza's Williams-Sonoma for her recently released cookbook, Seriously So Good. Thank you so much for being here today, Carissa Stanton.
Thanks so much for having me. That was really impressive that you just rattled all that off. Were you reading that or did you memorize it?
Okay, I used to have to memorize them and it took me like all week to do it. And I would get so nervous. And then now I have them like, I was like, oh, I could just put it against like on the screen. It'd be a lot easier for me to do this.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Good job.
Thank you. But I have been such a big fan of yours for several years. Like pretty much anytime I go to a gathering, like if it's a girls' night or like bachelor watch party or book club, like one of the recipes is from you. And they're always my favorite on the table. They're so delicious. So I've been very excited to get to talk with you.
Yay. Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Of course. And also congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that was like, it's been such a whirlwind with the engagement and the cookbook coming out, and it's all been so exciting and fun. So yeah, lots going on.
Awesome. How did he propose?
He did it at the Proper in Santa Monica. We live in LA, and he did it over there, which was really nice and special and private, which I loved.
Yeah, that hotel is gorgeous. I went to a friend's wedding there and it's like stunning.
It is so pretty. The lobby is insane.
Yeah, it's like design goals. But
yeah.
So to circle back a bit, you grew up in Tribuco Canyon. What were you like as a kid?
That is a great question. So as a kid, I was really, really into sports and dance. I danced competitively and I played soccer for a little bit. And I just feel like I've always been really driven and really into whatever my hobbies were. So I was very dedicated to it. Eventually I had to stop doing soccer and I kept to dance. So I was very into it. Eventually was on the high school dance team and I just loved it. So I think I was just very dedicated to my hobbies and school. And I really wanted to do well in school. I was very focused. So yeah, I feel like I've always been like a very disciplined person.
Yeah, me too. I feel that. When did you fall in love with cooking?
Honestly, ever since I was young, I really have always loved food. My first word was popsicle, which is such a random word, but I was obsessed with popsicles. I could like barely say it, but I still tried to say it. So I've always loved food, been obsessed with it. And I just took an interest into whatever people were making. So it started out with my mom and dad. Obviously they would be cooking dinner and I'd want to know how to make it. And I would try and make it myself and like, oh, I want to make my, chicken fingers or whatever. I'll do my own. So I was always really interested in doing it. And my parents both love cooking. So that was a really big influence early on. And then as I got older, I would start going to my friends' houses and I would ask their moms would make dinner and I'd be like, how did you make this? And I'd want to know. So it's just always felt really natural to me. I've always loved it. And I started actually really getting into cooking for myself. Once I went away to college, I went to San Diego State and I was living on my own. And my first apartment that I ever lived in had like community grills. And I started getting really good at grilling. Like I was like, oh my gosh, grilling is actually the easiest thing ever. It's like probably the easiest way to cook food. A lot of people don't realize, but I started grilling a lot like my sophomore year of college and then just got good at it and have loved it ever since.
No, I've seen you post on your Instagram about grilling and I'm like so intimidated by the grill, but now I feel like I should try it.
I know I have this theory that like the guys are always like, oh, I'm the grill master. I'll take care of it. And they're not telling you that it's actually the easiest thing ever. Like it's so easy to cook food on the grill. And I'm like, no one ever tells you. We feel like we always are just like, oh, the guys will do it. The guys will do it. And I'm like, literally, the girls can grill. It's so easy. It's so healthy. It's so easy to make like really delicious, nutritious food on the grill. Tons of flavor. I'm such a fan.
Yeah, I have one like right by my house. I should really try that. So you majored in kinesiology with an emphasis in fitness, health, and nutrition at San Diego State. So did that play into what you do now? Kind of like, I feel like that'd be such a great education for cooking.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was doing it, I wanted to be like a physical trainer, maybe working with like athletes, or I wanted to also get into potentially like corporate wellness. So working at like a big company and, helping their employees, like, figure out what gym they want to go to. It's like a whole different realm of things that I thought that I wanted to do. But when I graduated, there weren't any really jobs that I was interested in that like felt like a career to me. So I ended up going into real estate. And so I was like, okay, I'm not using my degree at all. Like this is just whatever. I went to school. I have a degree. That's fine. And then now where I wound up, I'm like, it actually does play a part into what I do every day because I had a lot of courses on nutrition, which my recipes range from super healthy to not healthy at all. I feel like I live a very balanced life, which I actually learned about in school and nutrition. A lot of what you'll learn about food and the way it fuels your body is like all of these things like, mayonnaise and butter, like those things are not necessarily bad for you. They're bad for you if you eat a ton of it. So I feel like I learned early on how to live a really balanced life and eat foods that are nutritious for me and also not feel guilty when I'm eating things that are a little more indulgent. So now, yes, my degree plays a role in what I do every day, but it was a path to get here.
Yeah. And I literally like that brought up two of my favorite recipes from you. One that's like a household staple for me and my husband is it's like your veggie tacos with like, you top them with like crispy Brussels sprouts. Love those. It feels like so indulgent, but there's so much vegetables in them. And then like my biggest like hit at every party I take it to is your brie that's like wrapped with pastry puff.
Yes. That's so good.
Such a hit. Yeah, both sides of the spectrum.
Exactly.
So you mentioned you were in real estate. Were you selling real estate or were you working in an office?
So a little bit of both. It started out where I was just pretty much answering phones, and it was right out of college, and I really, really wanted a 9-to-5 job. Like I thought that was the sign of success. So I was really eager to just get into anything that was full time. So I started there at the front desk, and then I eventually got licensed and was working under an agent, and I was a transaction coordinator. So I was doing all the paperwork, which was actually very fun. Like you kind of just like go through all the paperwork and you check the boxes. It was very like satisfying for my brain. I liked it, but the creative side was not there for me. So that's when I kind of started doing my Instagram on the side. So it was like working at my day job. And then eventually I was like, I'm going to, start posting my recipes online. And that's kind of how that all started.
Wow. And what kind of recipes were you posting in the beginning?
In the beginning, I was posting very healthy recipes because I just thought that that's what people wanted to see. I feel like I followed a lot of like wellness bloggers. It was 2017. Mm-hmm. So it was very much like no bananas in your smoothie. You have to use cauliflower. Do you remember that craze? And like cauliflower rice, you had to eat cauliflower rice, not regular rice. And so I was definitely like playing into that kind of like wellness trends. And it's funny looking back because all of those posts that I would do of like my gross looking cauliflower smoothie, like no one really cared about. And then I would post my dinner that I was actually eating and enjoying and liking. And those were the recipes that would do really well. So I definitely found my path, but I was definitely posting things in the beginning that maybe were a little inauthentic.
Got it.
But I definitely found my way. And now I feel like I genuinely post exactly what I'm eating and doing, and it feels really natural and great.
Yeah. And how did you come up with your handle, which I'm obsessed with?
Thank you. It's so funny because when I was first about to start my account, I have a huge group of girlfriends, and I texted them. I'm like, I'm going to start a food Instagram. What should the name be? And my best friend Rio replied, and she was like, what about Rock Your Body? And I was like, oh, that's funny. Like play on the like song. And I was like, let's do it. I didn't think about it at all. Like just was like, cool. made it my handle. And it's so funny now, like it's this whole brand and I'm like publishing a cookbook with the name on it. And I'm like, I would have never guessed in a million years that this is what would have happened with it. Probably would have thought a little bit harder, but no, I love it. It's fun.
Oh, your friend probably feels so special that it like is still a name.
Yes, she loves it.
Awesome.
She's a lawyer though. And I'm like, is she going to like one day come out and be like, you owe me?
Yeah, right. Royalties.
Exactly.
At what point were you able to take on blogging full time?
So it was about 3 or 2.5 years, almost 3 years after I started my blog. So I was doing both for a very long time. I wanted to make sure that it was like stable enough of a career because it is scary going to working for yourself, and it's not a very steady income. It can vary, and that kind of scared me a little bit. So I stayed at my real estate job for a while and was just doing both. And once I finally saved some money and I was starting to make more money doing my Instagram, I quit that job and did it full time. So it took a while. For sure. Yeah. I feel like it's not like an instant success type of thing. And I also never really thought I would do it full time, especially when I first started. It was more of just a hobby and something that I was doing for fun. And then once I started making money from it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a nice supplemental income. And then it started getting more. And I was like, oh, wow, I think I can do this full time, which has been amazing.
Definitely. And the last time that we spoke for Orange Coast last year, you had mentioned that like it's a lot of work that people might not understand, like, or realize how much work it goes with it. I can't imagine doing real estate and that, like all the transactions and stuff, and this at the same time for 2 years.
I know. Like a lot. I know. I really like being busy. I like working. Always felt like just kind of, it makes me feel good. I don't know. And the busier I am, the more energized I am. Like this past week, I've had so much going on and been doing so much like press for the book and running around and like doing all this stuff that I normally don't do. And I am like, oh my God, I'm waiting to feel exhausted and tired. And I'm like, I actually feel so energized. I feel like it just kind of like keeps me going. So talk to me in like 2 weeks. I might be exhausted, but we'll see.
What are some other aspects of your career that people may not realize or guess at?
I think a lot of it. So obviously I'm posting content online and I post, the interesting things that I'm doing, but I would say a lot of things that I just don't want to talk about online are more of like, it's actually a business that you have to run. So there's a lot of like accounting and taxes and emails and, talking to brands, sending them the analytics of the brand deals that I have to film and all of that kind of stuff. That's like more like the housekeeping type of stuff. That's just boring and takes time. Very interesting, which slowly takes up more and more of my day as the busier I get. But I would say that is kind of, the running the business aspect of it that isn't very glamorous or fun at all. But yeah,
definitely. Where do you find inspiration for new recipes?
So right now even though it's gross out today, I feel like spring has been really inspiring to me. So I've been wanting to do a lot of recipes with seasonal ingredients, like asparagus and lots of herbs and peas and carrots and just things that feel very light in spring, which is kind of, I feel like what everyone is really gravitating towards right now because, this is Orange County, but I feel like we had a long, hard winter. It was like rainy.
Yeah, it was so rainy.
Yeah. So I feel like things that are just like bright and fresh are kind of what I'm gravitating towards right now. So I definitely get a lot of inspiration from the seasons changing and then restaurants that I visit. I love trying new places and getting inspired by different flavors. And so, yeah.
What are some key components that you look for in a recipe where you're like, ooh, this is going to be, that's it?
So I like them to be easy and quick cleanup. I hate doing dishes. And if I have to break out like a bunch of different pots and pans, I'm like, this isn't going to work. I also make sure that I use ingredients that people are going to be familiar with. So what I like to say is like, I want people to look at the ingredients list on the recipe and they either have what the recipe is calling for already on hand, or they can envision exactly where they're going to be able to find it in the grocery store. They're like, oh, okay, avocados. I know exactly where that is. I feel like once you start throwing in ingredients where you're like, I don't know where I would find that in the store. And then people kind of gravitate away towards it. So familiar ingredients, quick, easy. And then I would say like 90% of my recipes, maybe 80, are pretty healthy. So balanced. They have a protein, a veggie, a little bit of healthy fats, and they'll make you feel good after you eat them.
Definitely. And they always do. So as I mentioned, you have your first cookbook out this year called Seriously So Good. And it features 100 recipes, including pan-fried brie with pistachios and rosemary hot honey, which, oh my gosh, I can't wait to try that.
Right up your alley.
Yeah. What was this process like, and how did you decide which ones to put in the book?
So it's so funny because even now, I wrote the book. It takes a long time. So I wrote it like 2 years ago.
Wow.
A year and a half, 2 years ago. So I will look through the book, and sometimes I even surprise myself where I'm like, how did I think of this? Like, what is this? And I'm like impressed. I'm like, oh, where did that idea come from? I almost like don't even remember, because the process is like you sit down and you have to crank out 100 recipes. And like, I want to say it was like maybe 8 months that it took me to develop.
Wow, that's a lot.
So it takes a while, but you're kind of just like in the zone, cranking it out. And I look at some of them. I'm like, how did I think of this? But yeah, it's definitely a long, hard process, but I'm really proud of everything that's in here.
Oh, amazing. And so for the fans of yours who have been following you for a long time, do you have recipes that they've seen on Instagram already, or are they all brand new?
So there's 100 recipes in the book, and we took 10 favorites from my blog and put them in the book. So there's 90 brand new, and then 10 that people have
90 brand new.
Yes, I know. So yeah, they're, most of them are brand new, but I just know that there was some that people love so much that I think that they would be excited to see printed in the book. So you'll see some popular ones in there as well. Like the lemon chicken soup is in there, and the crunch wrap's in there.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, just some fun ones that are really popular.
That's awesome. The crunch wrap is also one of my favorites. It's so good. And it feels like less guilty. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
So you also have a book club called Brock's Book Club. And I saw that you either currently or you recently read The Woman by Kristen Hanna. And that's also my book club's pick this month too. And I actually just interviewed her, and she was she's from Orange County. Like, who knew?
She is. Oh my gosh. She's so nice. She actually messaged me one time when I was a few months ago when I was reading one of her books, and she was like, thank you so much for reading my book. I was like, oh my God, Kristen Hanna.
She's so kind.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for a book club?
So I've always loved reading. I feel like most women our age, I'm like low key addicted to my phone. So at night I would like turn on the TV and like, I'm going to watch a show. And then I would catch myself like scrolling Instagram, whatever. And so in order to really shut down and relax, I have just really fallen into reading a ton of books. So I don't know. I think that my audience also really wanted to interact. I would post them on my regular Instagram, my recipe Instagram. I was doing that for a while, and I wanted to be able to post them in feed. That way we can kind of interact in the comments and talk about it more. So I was like, I'm just going to start a whole separate Instagram, but it goes really well. I love like chatting with people about, because when you finish a book, you're like, I want to talk to someone about this. Like, I'm so excited, or I have so many questions or whatever. So it's been really nice to be able to post them on there and have a little bit of a book community over there.
Definitely. I'm reading the ACOTAR series right now. And like every time I finish a book, I'm like, sit my husband down. I'm like, I need to tell you everything I just read.
Wait, that's so funny, because I was literally just telling my fiance about, I read Crescent City, which you have to read after that.
Ooh, okay.
Like her other series. I was like telling him about it, and I could just tell he does not care. Like, just writing all this like stuff. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, what? It's so funny. But yeah, I like try and talk to him about it.
Yeah. You like have to get it out. It's like you have to. Okay. So taking a quick turn here, I want to talk about Dan Florek. Can you tell this like incredible story?
Yes. That's so funny. So I live in like the west side of LA, and I bought my house in 2021 and I renovated. So I was sitting actually like here where I'm sitting right now, and this guy was demoing the fireplace, and he comes over and with an envelope, and he was like, someone put this envelope in the fireplace, like here. And I opened it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, one of the previous people that lived here put their photos and little notes in, they like stuck it in the fireplace. I don't know how they did it. They must have been renovating it as well. And it just had like photos of them, photos of the house, because the house is old. It's like, it was built in like the 50s, I think. So photos of like the house, what it used to look like, photos of them. And I'm like, this is so cute. Yeah. And it's just this like cute couple. I didn't recognize them. And I posted on Instagram. I was like, oh my gosh, look how sweet this is. I found this in my fireplace. And I'm like looking at my DMs and they're blowing up. Everyone's like, oh my God, that's Captain Kragen from SVU. And I'm like, what? I have never seen the show. I still need to watch it. Is it Law and Order?
Yeah, my sister watches it. She's addicted.
Okay. Law and Order, SVU. Everyone's like, that's Captain Kragen. And I Googled it and it said the name, and I looked on the back of the picture and it said his name. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I ended up finding them on Instagram, and his wife, like we were messaging back and forth, and they came over and we like talked about it. We went out to dinner. We're like friends now. They still live in the neighborhood. So they're the nicest people ever, but it was just the funniest story. He actually told me where I'm sitting right now in my little nook is where he found out he got the role for.
Oh my God. For Law and Order?
It's a special seat that we're sitting in.
You have to put your own photo in the fireplace now for the next person.
I know, I'm going to put a cookbook in there.
Oh my God, that'd be so cute. And then also another side note, I can't not ask this question because all my friends are obsessed with The Bachelor. Your sister was on season 20 and you were on it for hometown date. Can you share any insights like what it was like being on the show or any memories that you have?
Oh my gosh, this is such a funny story too. You're asking the good questions. So it was so long ago, but it was when I was in college and I went home for the weekend to be on the show. And like, I didn't want to be on TV at all. That was not something I wanted to do. So, and neither did my dad. So we get there and the producers are all there and they're prepping us for Amanda and Ben to come in. And there was alcohol and I took some shots of whiskey and I don't recall. Like I literally don't recall what happened because I was so nervous. And then I chugged whiskey and with my dad, who's like way larger than I am. We took like 2-3 shots or whatever. And the next morning I woke up. I genuinely like don't really remember what happened. And the next morning I woke up, my sister was so mad at me.
Oh my God.
And I was like, it was the funniest thing ever, but I was like, my life is over. Like what I am going to be made out to be this crazy sister that like got too drunk, like whatever. But like, luckily I'm just a very like quiet drunk. So I kind of just sat there and like, didn't understand what was going on because I was like, whatever. And so when the episode aired, I was like terrified. I was like, I'm going to lose my job. It was when I was working 9 to 5. I was like, I'm going to get fired, literally like freaking out. And I was on it for like 0.5 seconds. I just like, I didn't even make good TV because I was that like, just like not all there. That people would have just been like, that sister was kind of weird. Like just sitting there all quiet.
Oh my God. That is so funny.
Luckily, I got out clean and I wasn't really on the episode. Thank God. So that is also a hilarious story that honestly, I feel like my sister is still mad at me for it.
That is such a sister dynamic. That is so funny. I literally had no idea that you would never have known. That's really, really funny.
Thank God. I literally owe someone at like NBC my life. Is it on? I don't know.
That's so true because they make those edits. Like you never know.
Someone was on my side and was like, we're going to cut the sister out. I'm like, God.
That's so funny. So you have such amazing things going on right now. Is there anything that listeners can keep an eye out for? I know I mentioned May 1st, you'll be at South Coast Plaza for Williams-Sonoma for your cookbook. Yes. Can anyone go to that, or like, how does that work?
Yes, there's tickets, which you can get on, I think on Williams-Sonoma's site and also on my website, rockyourbody.com. There's a whole little tour tab that you can look out for in there. And then I'm going to be on tour. So I'm going to be in a lot of different cities. If you live anywhere else, there's a lot of options. I'm going to be everywhere all at once. So you can check that out on there. And then, I'm just always posting recipes. I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of a break while I'm on tour. Obviously, I'm going to be creating new recipes while I'm out on the road. And then, I'm always like brewing up ideas. So I am, this is exclusive. I haven't said this yet, but I'm launching a product in a couple months too, which I'm really excited about. I'm not going to say what it is because in a couple months we're coming out with that. So I'm really excited. Thanks.
That's really exciting. I'm probably going to buy it. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
It's great.
Amazing. So we're coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So what advice do you have for aspiring bloggers?
Okay. My advice would be to take it slow. You don't need to jump in all at once. I always say this, but people ask me like, were you scared when you made the jump into doing this full time or whatever? And it really wasn't ever scary for me because I did both for a while. And I think it's totally fine to, grind and do both and see if it works out and really just give it your all. But, you don't have to jump in. What is it? Both feet first?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can dip your toe in a little bit and slowly ease your way in.
Yeah, that's really smart. And then how do you overcome creative blocks?
Okay, this is a great question because I used to not really get them very often. I would kind of always just be going. And it is something that happened to me recently where I was like, I don't feel inspired at all to do anything. And I really just leaned into it. I was like, I'm not going to force myself to create anything. I'm just going to catch up on organizing or my emails or whatever it may be and kind of take a break from creating anything new if I'm not feeling it. And I did that for a week. And then honestly, the next week I was ready to go, created a bunch, felt really good. So I think just knowing that everything's temporary and if you're not feeling it, just lean into it and give yourself that space.
Yeah, that's really good advice. When a writer's block is I hate it so much, but maybe leaning into it next time will help.
Yes.
What habits or routines do you feel have helped you with your success? So
I love a schedule. I write everything out and I always make time for myself every single morning. So I'm not perfect. I don't do this exact routine every morning, but I like to wake up, meditate, get some sunshine, maybe write in a journal. And then I work out in the mornings, mostly every morning. It's usually just 30 minutes, nothing crazy. But I just feel like having that time every morning to do something for me is really helpful. It just sets me up for a really productive day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate this. I was very excited to get to talk with you. So this is
you asked, that was really good for 30 minutes. You packed so much in.
I'm so glad. Well, thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.